Today I'm going to show you how to put together a Nativity Scene Candy Dome. And this bundle comes with two variations. One that is made out of 6 pieces of paper. This is that one, where this brown piece includes Mary, Jesus, and Joseph. So they're just going to match that manger. And I've made this with a lot of like pop dots to give it some dimension. And then I'm going to show you now how to make the one with 9 layers, where you can do Mary, baby Jesus, and Joseph separately from this background layer. So this layer is one piece with the people here, and here we have it as a few more pieces. Now I've also decided to try using a glitter background. Since we're doing a nighttime scene, I thought that would look kind of cool and different. You can see how that makes it a little fancier. So let me just show you how quick and easy these are to put together. And the way these open when you've given the person the candy dome or whatever you put in there, toys, money, a gift certificate, to access that, they're just going to turn it over, grab this tab and tear this back. And that's how you access what is in the dome after you put it together. Now, if you want to write a message or print a message on the back, I recommend you do it before you put it all together, especially if you're going to do dimension like this one, because it's not going to be as easy to write on that when it's not laying flat. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put the dome onto the background. So there's lots of different ways to do this. I've seen people do it different ways. This is how I like to do it. I put the candy in the dome, I put the back on it, and then I flip it over. Now, when you glue the dome down, you want to make sure the part with the circle is up. You don't want it at the skinniest part of the paper, because when you put this down, you want to make sure it goes down pretty well. So I always put it towards like a bigger part of the paper. To make sure it's placed perfectly, you're going to put this layer 2 on there, and then you're going to line that up so you know exactly where that dome needs to be when you add the top layers. Then I'm going to hold that still, pull this up, don't move the dome. And now I'm just going to run a bead of hot glue right around the bottom, making sure it is connecting to the plastic and the glitter paper. You can see that holds on there nicely. Just make sure you let that glue harden before you test it. Okay, so now we have the back done with the candy dome, and I'm going to set this aside and I'm going to work on layering the front. Now I am just going to double check and make sure I'm working on the front of the front, the side where it lines up perfectly with where we put that dome. Because if you flip it over, well, I have that pretty well centered. It will work either direction. But you always want to check, because sometimes they're not as symmetrical based on the design. So now I have all these little pieces. You can see in this design, there's 3 pieces that are part of the top of the manger, the Star of Bethlehem. Now we also have our characters, Mary, baby Jesus, and Joseph separate. And then this represents straw on the floor of the manger and kind of gives it a nice guideline on the bottom. And you can either just use tacky glue and make it nice and flat, or you can add the dimension to it. So I'm going to do the top like I did this one. I'm going to glue this smallest layer to the middle layer. And I'm just going to take tacky glue, and you just want to do very sparingly so that your paper doesn't get too wet and warp, especially when you're doing cardstock to cardstock. When you're gluing to glitter, you need a little bit more glue, but for cardstock to cardstock, it does not take much. I'm just going to center that and press down. You can slide it a little bit once you put it down if you don't get it down as straight as you'd like. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take these foam squares and put them on the back so that we have some dimension on the roof of the manger. Then I'm going to hover above the manger, decide where I want it before I touch it down, because it is hard to reposition these foam dots. And then you're just going to press down gently where the different dots are. Don't press too hard. You don't want to bend it in between where your dots are, but see how that makes nice dimension there. And you can play with color. I wasn't sure what colors to do, so I decided to keep it pretty neutral. You could do like Mary with a blue. So I'm just laying these out to decide where I want them, and then I'm going to put a little bit of glue under the bottom edge of each to attach them to the brown. And then I've decided I want to accentuate Jesus in his cradle. So I'm going to put I'm going to use pop dots for him too. But then if I do that, I'm going to have to also pop dot the straw. I'm going to line that up so that Mary's hand looks like she's touching baby Jesus. Now, the straw is very skinny, and it's skinnier, except in like maybe one or two places, than these squares. So what I do is I just use these nonstick scissors and cut these in half to make, when you have something really thin that you want to add dimension to, you can do that. Now I want to make sure I don't put a foam dot on the same spot where the cradle is, because that's already raised and I don't want it raised even more. I'm just raising it so it's going to be the same level. You're going to look over top before you really press down, and we want to make sure this is going to cover the bottom of Mary and Joseph, who are down a little bit further than maybe they should have been. So see how we have some dimension between Mary and Joseph and Jesus in the straw, and then that. Now we're going to attach the front to the back. So a couple ways you can do this. You can just make it flat and use glue. But I really like how this one looked, where it gave a little bit of dimension, because I used the adhesive strips on that too. So I'm going to turn that over, and I have some adhesive tape, so I don't have quite as many little pieces to deal with. So I'm going to put these down the sides. You don't want to get too close to that circle, because there's a little bit of lift going over that glue and the dome. And then you just want to gently put this down, because remember, you have different layers on the other side, so you don't want to be aggressive when you're pressing this on. I'm going to use the little squares and make sure that their bodies have some support to keep the dimension there. So now we're just going to, again, very carefully, before you let this attach, lay it down and make sure these bottom edges and sides are going to be lined up. Then gently press. Move around. How cool that looks. Now we have our final touch, the Star of Bethlehem, which is the perfect size for one of these teeny tiny, I think they're like 1/4 inch, I'm not sure. Tiny little squares. And then you can decide where you want to place this. You can, if you wanted to put it up high, so it's really much more above the manger, then you would need to probably do double foam dots for it to stick there. So I am just going to put it at the very top here of the manger. So the point goes above the blue a little bit, but overall it looks good. So these are the 2 variations that come in the bundle. This is the 6 pieces of paper. So this is the Mary, Jesus, Joseph, and the manger are all flat on one layer. It's cut from one piece of paper, whereas this one has each character its own layer. So I was able to make Jesus stand out with the glitter. I could have done them in different colors, but I decided to keep it more neutral, but I got a lot more dimension on this one. No right or wrong way. I do love the glitter. Looks like a fun Starry Night, and I like how the glitter looks behind the Hershey Kisses too. So anyway, that is how easy they are to do. These would be great for Sunday school gifts or religious school. You could punch a hole in it and use it as a tag on a gift. You could put it on a Christmas tree as an ornament. Maybe you're doing a gift kind of an ornament for a group. You can put candy in here. You could put small toys in here. You could put money, anything that fits in the dome, go for it. And there are links below the video that show you where to find these domes on Amazon and also where to find these bundles.